You never think the danger lives in your own house until it looks you in the eye and calls you mom. And by then, it's too late. It's been almost a year since that day. A year since everything I thought I knew, everything I thought I could trust, came undone. And yet, the silence still follows me into every room, every thought, every moment I wish I could take back. Some stories don't start with fireworks. They start in whispers, in glances that last a second too long, in questions that echo louder when no one's really asking them out loud. I was just trying to be a good wife, a decent stepmom, a woman who didn't fall apart just because life stopped looking like the picture she once imagined. But I was tired. So tired of being invisible in my own home. Tired of being the one who kept giving, without being seen, without being held. Alan, my husband, he stopped noticing a long time ago. He'd come home, drop his bag, scroll through his phone, and ask what was for dinner like it was the only thing I existed for. No kiss. No, how was your day? No touch unless he needed something. And I told myself it was normal. Marriage gets like that, right? That's what they all say. Just a phase. Stick it out. But then Jared came back. Our stepson. Alan's boy from his first marriage. 21. Smart. Polite. Helpful. And too good-looking for his own good. He moved back in after a rough breakup. Said he needed space. Time to sort himself out. I didn't mind. Honestly, it felt nice. Having someone in the house again who actually spoke to me. Laughed with me. Not at me. Not around me. At first, it was little things. He'd help me unload the groceries. He'd compliment my cooking. He'd sit with me in the kitchen when I was cleaning up, ask questions. Real ones. About my day. My past. My dreams. And I didn't think anything of it. I mean, why would I? But then, there was this one night. I was reaching for something in the cabinet, and he was standing close. Too close. His hand brushed my arm slow. Not like an accident. Like a question. And for a split second, I didn't move. I felt it. In my chest. In the pit of my stomach. Like a door creaking open, one I didn't even know was there. And I wish I could say I slammed it shut. I wish I could say I walked away right then and there. But instead, I froze. And he smiled. Not the way a boy smiles at his stepmom, but the way a man smiles at a woman he's undressing with his eyes. That was the moment everything changed. But back then, I told myself I imagined it. That it was nothing. That I was the problem, lonely, hormonal, too eager to feel seen. I didn't tell anyone. Not a soul. Because who would understand? And that silence? It's the same one I still carry today. It lives in my pillow. In my bathroom mirror. In the way Alan looks at me now like he's trying to figure out when I started slipping away. But it didn't start with me. It started the moment I trusted my stepson. And he showed me who he really was. And what I let happen next. That's the part one still can't say out loud without shaking. But you'll hear it. All of it. Because maybe if I tell this story, someone else won't have to live it. Subscribe now to Heartfelt Tales Unfold, where we uncover the darkest corners of what we try to forget. Because some stories aren't just secrets. They're warnings. And this? This is mine. Stay with me. Alan and I had been married for 12 years. And somewhere in the middle of that time, I disappeared. Not all at once. Piece by piece. First, the late-night talks stopped. Then the touches faded. Then the laughter. He wasn't cruel. Just gone. Still in the house. But not in the marriage. He worked late. He slept early. He came home with tired eyes and half-hearted questions. And I learned how to smile without feeling it. I spent most days in the kitchen. Or out in the garden, pruning things that didn't need pruning. Just so I could feel like something in this house still needed me. Then Jared moved back in. He called a week after his breakup. Said things ended badly. Said he needed space. Said he missed home. Alan didn't hesitate. He told him to pack a bag. And just like that, we had a 21-year-old in the guest room. At first, I was nervous. I'd only really known Jared as a teenager. Back then, he was quiet, polite, always a little guarded with me. But now, he was different. Older. Confident. There was a calmness in him, like he was sure of who he was. He thanked me every time I made a meal. He asked if I needed help with the dishes. He sat across from me while I folded laundry and told me about his ex, how she left suddenly, how it left him feeling used. And I listened. Not because I had to, but because no one had talked to me like that in years. He filled the silence in the house. Not just with sound, but with presence. He noticed things. When I got a haircut. When I rearranged the living room. When I wore a new dress to church. Alan didn't notice. But Jared did. Dinner became strange. Alan would eat quickly and leave the table. But Jared would stay. Ask about my cooking. Tell me stories from college. Make me laugh. And sometimes, I'd look up and catch him watching me. Not casually. Not like family. Like a man watching a woman. He never looked away in shame. He just held the gaze. Steady. Soft. Curious. And I should have shut it down. I should have said something. But I didn't. Because part of me liked it. At first, having Jared back felt like company. Like life breathing back into a house that had grown still. But slowly, without warning, that breath began to feel like fire. It started burning through the cold. And I let it. Not because I planned to. But because no one had made me feel like a woman in so long. And Jared? He knew exactly what he was doing. He wasn't just healing. He was hunting. And I was the quietest prey in the house. It was a Saturday night. Nothing special, just one of those rare evenings where everyone seemed okay. Alan suggested a game night. I remember being surprised. He hadn't wanted to do something as a family in months. But Jared jumped on it, and for once, the house didn't feel heavy. We played cards, drank wine, and laughed more than we had in a long time. The kind of laughter that makes you forget how much distance is in the room. I remember I wore a simple blue dress that night. Nothing fancy. But when I walked in, Jared did a double take. It was quick, but I caught it. He poured me a glass of wine before I could even sit down. And when I took it from him, our fingers brushed. His touch lingered, just for a second, but long enough to feel it. We were 2 hours into the game, halfway through a bottle of wine, when it happened. Jared had just lost a round. I teased him, playfully. He smirked and said loud enough for Alan to hear, "Careful, hot stepmom's getting bold." Everyone laughed. Even Alan. He shook his head and said something about Jared being dramatic. But I felt my face heat up. Not from embarrassment, but from the way Jared looked at me when he said it. Like he meant it. Like he wanted me to hear it. I laughed too, pretended it was all harmless. But something inside me shifted. Like a key turning in a lock I didn't even know existed. Later that night, after Alan went to bed, I stayed behind to clean the kitchen. I was standing at the sink, hands in soapy water, staring out the window into the dark, thinking about that word, hot. Not beautiful. Not lovely. Hot. And the fact that it came from someone half my age should have disturbed me. But it didn't. I didn't hear him come in. Jared. He didn't say a word at first. Just picked up a towel and started drying the plates. We worked side by side for a minute or two in silence. But not the awkward kind. The kind that feels too quiet. Too full. Then he said low, calm, "You deserve to laugh more." I kept scrubbing. Didn't say anything. But my heart, it started beating faster. He added, "He doesn't see you, you know." But I do. I stopped. I froze, sponge in hand, water dripping down my wrist. I turned to him. Not fully. Just enough to say something. Anything. But the words never came. Because he looked right at me like he'd been waiting for this moment. Like he wasn't sorry. Like he knew. And maybe he did. It wasn't what he said. It was how. Like he had studied the hollow spaces inside me and figured out exactly where to place his voice. I finally said, "You shouldn't talk like that." Soft. Weak. He shrugged. But he didn't apologize. He just said, "Someone should." And then, he walked out of the kitchen. Left me standing there, still holding the sponge, still soaking in the heat of what had just happened. The sink was full of bubbles, but I felt dirty. And yet, I didn't move. I just stood there, hand trembling, throat tight, knowing something had shifted. Not just between us, but inside me. A door had opened, and I didn't know how to close it. I should have shut it down that night. Should have told Alan. Should have told Jared it wasn't okay. But I didn't. I told myself it was harmless. Just a compliment. Just a boy being too kind. But he wasn't a boy, and I wasn't innocent. The days that followed felt heavier. Not because anything else had happened, but because something already had. Alan grew colder. More distracted. He started coming home later. Took more calls outside. Stopped asking how my day was. Not that he did much before, but now? It felt like I was just furniture. And Jared. He started noticing more. When I looked tired. When I burned dinner. When I sighed a little too hard after a long phone call. He noticed. And he asked. And he listened. There was one evening, I was standing at the hallway mirror, adjusting my coat. Struggling with the zipper. Jared came up behind me. Didn't say a word. Just reached forward and zipped it up for me. His hands so close to my chest. Too close. But gentle. Deliberate. He said, "Looks good on you." Then walked away. And I stood there, staring at my own reflection, wondering when I had started craving moments like that. There was another day, just a small one. I dropped a glass in the kitchen. It shattered everywhere. Alan yelled from the other room, "What now?" Jared came in instead. Didn't ask anything. Just grabbed a broom, swept up the pieces, and placed his hand on mine. Held it. Not long, but long enough. And I didn't pull away. I told myself, he's being kind. He sees I'm overwhelmed. He's just trying to help. But a part of me knew better. And the shame started growing. Crawling up my spine like something rotten. I'd watch him from the kitchen window when he was outside, fixing something, mowing the lawn, playing with the dog. And I'd ask myself, "What are you doing?" "He's your husband's son." But then I'd whisper, "You're not his mother." And that question would hang there. Does that excuse anything? No. But I clung to it anyway. Then came the note. We were gardening that afternoon. The sun was too bright. My gloves were dirty. And I laughed, really laughed, when Jared made fun of how I planted the tulips too close together. It felt easy. Like I had traveled back in time. To a version of me that wasn't tired. That wasn't forgotten. Later that night, I found the note. Folded neatly. Left on the windowsill by the kitchen sink. It said, "You still have so much beauty left in you." He just stopped looking. My knees buckled. I had to sit down. I read it 5 times. Then folded it again. I walked to the pantry, stood on my toes, and tucked it behind the cereal boxes. I told myself I'd throw it away the next morning. But I didn't, and I still don't know why. Maybe because it was the first time in years someone had looked at me like I wasn't fading. Like I was still visible. Still desirable. Still something worth writing about. I hid the note, but I couldn't hide the feeling, and that terrified me more than anything, because now I knew. This wasn't just in my head, and it wasn't going away. It didn't happen all at once. It crept in, quiet and slow, like fog you don't notice until you can't see anymore. We started talking more at night, after Alan had gone to bed, after the house fell still. It began with harmless things. Books, music, the garden. But slowly, the topics got deeper, darker, more exposed. He told me about the fights he remembered as a kid, about how his mother left, How she stopped calling one day, and no one explained why. He said, ever since then, I've been waiting for women to leave. And I listened. Too closely. Because the pain in his voice, it sounded like mine. Different story. Same ache. And there was something about hearing it at night, in low voices, with nothing but moonlight spilling through the window, that made it feel like a secret we were sharing. One night, the power went out. A storm had rolled in, quiet but angry. The lights flickered once, and then went black. I found candles, lit a few. Jared brought 2 glasses of wine. We sat in the living room, surrounded by warm flickering light and the sound of rain tapping against the windows. He leaned back, eyes half-lit, and said, "Sometimes I think I was built to be left. Like women can smell it on me, the damage." And without thinking, I said, "You're not the only one." We didn't speak for a moment. Just sat in it. That fragile, raw truth between us. Then he reached out, touched my face. Soft, barely there. Like he was asking a question with his fingers. I didn't stop him. I should have. But I didn't. It wasn't sudden. It was slow. Like a tide that had always been coming. And now it was here, pulling everything under. He leaned in, close enough that I could feel his breath. He didn't kiss me. Not yet. He just hovered, waiting, giving me the chance to say no, to walk away, to choose the right thing. But I didn't move. And when his lips met mine, it wasn't passionate. It wasn't hungry. It was aching, quiet, wrong. But it felt like the first time someone had really touched me in years. Like being remembered. And I didn't tell him to stop. When it ended, we didn't speak. He stood, left the room without a word. And I sat there, in the candlelight. Still, my lips burning, my hands shaking, my heart screaming. I told myself it was a one-time mistake. Just a moment. A weak, broken moment. But even as I whispered it to myself, I knew it was a lie. Because something had broken loose. And there was no putting it back. Nothing was ever the same again. Alan came home early one Friday. Dropped his keys on the counter like always. Didn't kiss me. Didn't ask about dinner. He just said, "I'm heading out this weekend. Company retreat. Last minute. I'll be back Sunday night." I nodded. Asked if he needed help packing. He shook his head. Didn't even look at me when he said it. He left the next morning. And just like that, the house was empty. Except it wasn't. Jared was still there. Still in the guest room. Still walking around like he didn't carry a secret with him every time he passed me. I tried to stay busy. Laundry. Vacuuming rooms that were already clean. I even baked something, though I didn't know why. But the air in the house felt thick. Like it knew. Like it was watching. That night, it rained again. Not a storm, just soft, steady drops against the roof. Jared came into the kitchen while I was pouring tea. He leaned against the counter, arms crossed. Didn't say anything at first. Just watched me. Like he was waiting for permission. Or forgiveness. I handed him a cup. He took it without a word. We sat in the living room. No TV. No music. Just rain. And breathing. I don't remember who moved first. Maybe it was me. Maybe it was him. Maybe we both knew the moment was already written. But we crossed the space between us like it was nothing. Like it hadn't taken weeks of silence and stolen glances to get there. He touched me. Not with hunger. But with something heavier. Something slower. I let him. I let him touch the parts of me I thought had died. The parts that had been numb for years. The parts one thought no one would ever see again. He didn't call me Mom. He whispered my name. Just my name. And in that moment, I wasn't a wife. I wasn't a stepmother. I was just a woman. One who had been starving for affection in a house full of cold rooms. It wasn't love, but it felt like being remembered. And that was enough for that night. When it was over, I didn't sleep. I lay beside him while he did, watching the ceiling, counting every breath like it was borrowed time. Morning came too fast. The sunlight came through the blinds like judgment. I went to the bathroom, looked at myself in the mirror, and I hated what I saw. My lips were swollen. My eyes were hollow. My body familiar and foreign all at once. I thought crossing the line would bring clarity, that it would answer something. But all I felt was fog, thick and heavy. I walked back to the room. Jared was awake. He smiled, like it was love, like we were starting something. And I smiled back, because I didn't know what else to do. But it was a lie, every inch of it. And I think he knew. I grabbed the sheet to wrap around me, started toward the hallway, toward my room, toward guilt. And that's when I heard it. A soft voice, "Mom." I turned, and there she was, my daughter, standing at the end of the hallway, hair messy, stuffed animal in one hand, eyes wide with confusion. She didn't say anything else. She didn't have to, because everything shattered. All at once. She didn't say anything that morning, just stood there, at the end of the hall, staring. Her little fingers curled around the edge of her pajama sleeve, her stuffed bear hanging by one arm, dragging along the floor like something forgotten. She blinked slowly, and then she turned and walked away. No questions, no screaming, just silence. But something changed in her after that. She stopped coming to me with her drawings, stopped asking me to braid her hair, stopped kissing my cheek goodnight. She didn't cry, didn't slam doors, just drifted, like I had become a stranger. And maybe I had. Jared texted me later that day. "We should talk. Are you okay?" I missed last night. I read the messages, but I didn't respond. I couldn't. The weight in my chest was too loud, too thick. So I deleted them, one by one. Not because it erased what happened, but because it gave me something to do, something I could control. Jared noticed. Of course he did. He started acting out. Little things at first, slamming drawers, leaving dirty dishes everywhere, coming home later than usual. Then came the outbursts. Passive jabs. Snide comments. "You're good at pretending. You needed it more than I did, remember? Guess I was just a mistake to you." And still I said nothing. Because what could I say? What words exist for a wound like this? Alan noticed my detachment too. Not all at once, but enough. He made offhand remarks. "Maybe you're just hormonal. You've been off lately. Are you eating? You're not even trying anymore." I wanted to scream. "You haven't tried in years. You made me feel like a ghost." But I didn't. I swallowed it. Every time Jared entered a room, I found a way to leave it. I started folding laundry in the garage, eating lunch in the bedroom, turning off my phone by 7 p.m. The distance wasn't subtle, and he resented it. I could feel the shift in his energy, from tenderness to bitterness, from seeing me to owning me. He had crossed a line with me, but I had crossed one with myself. And now the silence we shared wasn't safety anymore. It was pressure. It wasn't a secret anymore. It was a weapon. Waiting, simmering, held between us like glass, ready to shatter with the wrong word. And the worst part? I wasn't sure who'd throw it first. I told one person. Just one. My oldest friend. Someone who had seen me through every version of myself. The girl, the bride, the mother, the wife. We met at a small cafe, sat across from each other in a quiet corner. I didn't dress up, didn't wear makeup. I wasn't trying to be anything that day. Just honest. I told her everything. Not all at once. Just in layers. Like peeling off skin that had hardened. I watched her face the whole time. Waited for her to interrupt. To shake her head. To say my name in that wounded tone. But she didn't. She just stared. Not cold. Not warm. Just stunned. And when I finished, she reached across the table, placed her hand over mine, and said nothing. That silence? It said everything. I started therapy after that. Quietly. No big declarations. No notebooks full of goals. Just showing up. Once a week. Sitting in a room with someone who didn't know me. Didn't judge me. Just asked questions I wasn't ready to answer. Around that time, Jared moved out. No goodbye. No explanation. Just gone. One night, his room was full. The next, it was empty. And I didn't chase after him. Didn't text. Didn't ask. It felt final. But not clean. More like something that dissolves in your hands, messy, incomplete, still clinging to your skin. Alan never found out. Or maybe he did, because a week after Jared left, he started sleeping in the guest room. No argument. No reason. Just started laying his pillow down somewhere else. And I didn't ask. And he didn't offer. We became two strangers passing in hallways, sharing bills and space and a daughter who no longer asked to sleep between us on stormy nights. I look back now and I ask myself all the same questions over and over. Was I a victim of loneliness or a villain of weakness? Was it betrayal or just a desperate hunger to feel seen? I still don't have an answer. Maybe I never will. But I know this, I still don't know what hurts more, what we did, or what I became because of it. Have you ever crossed a line not because you were cruel, but because you were empty? Not for thrill, not for spite, but because some part of you had gone so numb, you needed anything to remind you were still alive. Would you have stopped it? Or would you have done the same? Sat in that silence, felt the warmth of someone noticing you again, and convinced yourself it was harmless until it wasn't. I don't need judgment. I've done enough of that on my own. But if you've ever felt that ache, the one you can't name, drop your truth in the comments. No judgment. Just release. No one knows how heavy it gets until you carry it alone for too long. If this story stirred something in you, if it touched that quiet part of your heart you don't show anyone, subscribe to Heartfelt Tales Unfold. The next one might feel even closer to home. Every day, I fold laundry in silence. There's a shirt I never gave back. His, still in the bottom of the basket. Crumpled. Forgotten on purpose. I haven't had the courage to throw it away. My husband still smiles at me, but not with his eyes. And I don't smile back with mine. My daughter draws pictures of our family. Sometimes she adds a shadowy figure standing off to the side. She never labels it. But I know who it is. Some stories don't end. They echo. In locked phones. In avoided eye contact. In rooms where no one speaks. They echo in the way I turn away from mirrors. In the way I flinch at my own reflection. Not because of what I did, but because of what I became when I needed something and asked the wrong hands to give it. Some stories don't end. They just settle. And wait to be told.